Different relative positions of the Sun, the Moon, and Earth have different effects on the Earth's oceans. Which model shows the positions of the Sun, the Moon, and Earth that affect the tides the most? A, B, C, or D? A phase of the Moon is shown below. Which pair of diagrams shows the Moon's phase immediately before and immediately after this phase? A, B, C, or D? The diagram below shows Earth's orbit around the Sun. Use the diagram and your knowledge of science to answer any questions that follow. What season is the Southern Hemisphere experiencing at position J? A, spring, B, winter, C, fall, D, summer. Two stars are identified on the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram below. Based on the diagram, how do the characteristics of star 1 and star 2 compare? A, star 1 is cooler and less bright than star 2. B, star 1 is hotter and brighter than star 2. C, star 1 is cooler and brighter than star 2. D, star 1 is hotter and less bright than star 2. Which of these correctly compares the masses of different objects in the universe? A, a moon has less mass than a star and more mass than the planet it orbits. B, a planet has less mass than a galaxy and more mass than a star it orbits. C, a galaxy has less mass than a moon and more mass than a planet. D, a star has less mass than a galaxy and more mass than a planet. Quasars are extremely distant celestial bodies. Investigators using a special telescope determined that a certain quasar was emitting waves with a frequency of 1.41 times 10 to the 9 hertz. An electromagnetic spectrum is shown. The investigators were most likely using a telescope that detects A, microwaves, B, visible light, C, X-rays, D, gamma rays. The Hertzsprung-Russell diagram below displays the temperature and magnitude of thousands of stars in the galaxy. Use the diagram and your knowledge of science to answer any questions that follow. Number 7. The Sun is classified as a yellow dwarf sequence star. The Hertzsprung-Russell diagram indicates that because the Sun is a G main sequence star, it is a large star larger than a supergiant, B, small star smaller than a white dwarf, C, medium-sized star smaller than a giant and larger than a white dwarf, D, large star smaller than a supergiant and larger than a giant. The satellite photograph below depicts the Milky Way galaxy. Use the photograph and your knowledge of science to answer any questions that follow. Number 8. Astronomers can use light years to determine the A, amount of dark matter in this galaxy, B, radioactivity of this galaxy, C, number of stars in this galaxy, D, diameter of this galaxy. Number 9. A light year is a unit of measurement that is best used to express A, radius of a moon's orbit around a planet, B, distance between two planets in the same solar system, C, radius of a planet's orbit around a star. D, the distance between two planets in different solar systems. Number 10. Which of the following best describes how the interaction of the Sun, Moon, and Earth result in the lunar cycle? Light from the Sun, A, illuminates different amounts of the Moon's surface as the distance between the Sun and Moon changes. B, illuminates half the Moon, but we see different portions of the lit half as relative positions change. C, illuminates the entire surface of the Moon, but it looks different because of Earth's shadow. D, reaches part of the Moon due to the clouds in the sky. All the stars we observe from Earth emit light that is shifted to varying degrees to longer wavelengths. This evidence is used to support the Big Bang Theory because it shows the stars we observe, A, are all older than the Sun, B, are made up of helium gas, C, use nuclear fusion to make light, D, are moving away from us. Number 12. The appearance of the Moon on June 27, 2012 is shown above. Which of the following best shows the predicted appearance of the Moon on July 3, 2012? A, B, C, or D? Students are modeling the Earth, the Sun, and their relative motions. A basketball is used to represent the Sun, and a tennis ball is used to represent the Earth. In order to accurately model the cause of day and night on the Earth, the students must A, lift the tennis ball off the table, B, rotate the tennis ball on an axis, C, rotate the basketball on an axis, D, move the tennis ball around the basketball. 14. Which of these best compares the conditions at location X and location Y? A, it is day at location X and night at location Y. B, it is winter at location X and summer at location Y. C, there are more hours of daylight at location X than at location Y. D, the Moon is brighter when viewed from location X than viewed from location Y. 15. The Moon reflects different amounts of sunlight onto Earth at different times. This reflected sunlight is commonly called moonlight. The graph below shows the intensity of moonlight at different times in the lunar cycle. Which moon phase most likely occurs at the time in the cycle represented by an X on the graph? Your answers are on the back of the page. 16. Some students used records from the U.S. Naval Observatory to make the table below of the percent of the Moon that was visible on each night in January 2011. Based on these data, what part of the lunar cycle occurred between January 5 and January 7? A, waxing crescent moon. B, waning crescent moon. C, full moon. D, new moon. 17. The spectrum for visible wavelengths emitted by star X is compared here to the emission spectra of 4 different elements. According to the spectral analysis data, which element is present in star X? A, hydrogen, B, carbon, C, neon, D, magnesium.